This is Rafi Guzon, and you are tuned in to Nothing But That Sports Talk. Welcome to another episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafi Guzon alongside Edgar from Hard2Guard Media. Welcome to the show for the first time.
What's up, buddy? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, and I see you had your way of getting involved in media. I mean, you've done some stuff with Bobby C. Bobby C. and the guys from Hoops and the Sun. I've seen you made an appearance on the New York Post show with Dexter Henry, where you were briefly interviewed about where Nike Pro State was going to be. You didn't exactly see where it was, but it led to that whole Nike Pro City coming to LIU Brooklyn, my alma mater, by the way. And you've done some interesting stuff. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how you started, like what you do and how you got started in doing it?
Pretty much. I mean, my background is I started working with the New York Knicks a long time ago. If I tell you how long ago, that's telling my age. But was with the Knicks for 20 years. And then in 1999, when NBA TV started, I jumped on board as a production assistant and gradually worked my way up to producer at the NBA for like 14 years. At the same time, in 2006, I started my own production company called Hard2Guard, where we started creating shows, and I've always had a fascination with summer basketball in New York City. And at the NBA, I used to be one of the producers for the Rucker Park when Rucker Park had to deal with the NBA. And I always knew there was a lot of summer basketball all over New York City. So I created a show called Summer Ball, which Bobby C was on my show, Bobito, Booby Smooth, and we did that show for 4 years on MSG.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I see you well involved with the NBA. And I think you mentioned that when we was at Pro City, but you were involved in a lot of basketball stuff, and a lot of people learned from you. And
yes,
not to mention you had a lot of stints at the NBA at the NBPA office in New York City. So
yeah,
let's talk about how you managed to make a huge impact in basketball and media throughout your time.
How did I make a huge impact?
Yes.
Not just being around the right people. That's probably the best thing. You know, being around. Obviously, the basketball community is small. Production, people that work in media and sports is small, and I was able to cultivate a lot of relationships. So that's what actually helped me. And I'm always one to observe. So I observe from the right people just to figure out how to navigate to try to make some things happen.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about. I mean, once you talk to the right person, it's actually going to get you into higher ups. I mean, like I said, you had made connection with Bobby C, and I've had Bobby C on the show. I worked with him during my one and done year at Fordham University, where I got my master's degree. So when you see Bobby C's growth and development as a media professional, what has it stood out to you?
His voice. He could captivate a game. When we had obviously, I've been around Hoops in the Sun since 2005, 2006, and he used to call the men's games. And one thing that he always kept me engaged. So when I created Summer Ball, he was one of the first people, besides Bobito and Booby, that I was like, yo, you got to jump on board with this. And, he's helped me tremendously. Bobby C's he's one of my guys. I've always felt he was untapped and far. I wish he did NBA games or more college games. I know he's at Fordham calling games now, in Iona, I think. But I think he has one of those voices where he could go to a big program, NBA or NCAA, high D1, and call games.
Exactly, and he even gave me a lot of pointers when he listened to my play-by-play demos and I talked. And if you listen to my interview with Bobby C, way back in 2000, I believe we did it in early 2022, whatever the case may be, you get a better sense of my time working with him when I was involved with WTV Sports a lot, whether it's doing demos or engineering WTV show 101. Or just pretty much doing everything WTV sports and news related, but mainly sports because that's his caveat. He's a sports director there. He's pretty much teaching everybody what everything they need to know about sports reporting and sports debating. It's like
Yeah,
serious. I mean, you can learn that. I mean, to be fair, you can learn that anywhere. But if you choose to learning at WITV and Fordham University, that's the man to go to.
agree. No, I said, me and Bobby about a year and a half ago, we had a podcast, weekly podcast where we had a bunch of NBA guys, top college guys, and we did it for like a year. But Bobby has like 7 jobs, so after a while we had to like stop. Which unfortunately we had to stop because actually I think it started gaining a lot of traction towards the end. And Bobby's like, oh, I don't have time, which frustrated me. And Bobby, if you hear this show, yeah, you pissed me off about that.
But don't worry, you might see Bobby C later this month because I found out that you guys are starting your Dribble for Dreams game at Fordham University on August 19th. Make sure you go there. And yeah, it should be very interesting. It's a very interesting games. And I see you got a lot of big names being involved already. You got Jay Williams, you got Jay Williams, you got CP the franchise, you got this trader Chantel. Oh, you got Smoking Aces, just to name a few people that are involved. I mean, when you see all these celebrities and influencers wanting to get involved in your Dribble to Dreams, what stood out to you?
None. It's just friendships that I have for a long time. I mean, those guys, usually, when they do something, they call me and I show up. So it's the same thing. If I'm doing something, I jumped on board with this program because Nicole Russell, who I worked with at the NBA, she has a not-for-profit called Precious Dreams Foundation, who helps kids that live in shelters. And I've seen all the hard work she's put in time. So she called me about a month ago telling me that she needs help with some players. And I was, I said, let's make it happen. So I called some of the guys that I know, and everyone's like, let's try to make a great event, raise some money, create more awareness. So far, we've been getting a lot of people that have been reaching out to. Thank God, it's summertime, so a lot of people have vacation time and are running around. But during that, August 19th, some of the people that I asked for, they're going to be here. They're going to show out. We're going to have a good time for the kids. And that's what it's all about.
Exactly. And I know you just already pointed this out to you, and I hate to make you repeat it, but why did you start putting together Dribble for Dreams game in August?
Well, like I said, technically it wasn't me. That was more Nicole Russell and Vanessa Bryant, who is Johnny Bryant's wife. Johnny Bryant, the associate head coach for the New York Knicks. So they did it because they wanted to do something to, create more awareness for Nicole Russell's foundation. They wanted to get more players, so they reached out to me to, bring in more of the basketball community to try to help this event grow and get more people in the seats.
That's what it's all about. And when people actually come to the event to watch the game take place, I mean, what can you expect? What can people expect when they come to see the product that you and Nicole Russell and Vanessa Bryant put together when they go to Fordham University, which is literally one of the biggest attractions of the Bronx?
Just a good time, honestly. Just a lot of people, just a good time. We're gonna have some special guests that I can't name right now, but I'll just say they're in the NBA. So that they're current players that play in the NBA, so they're gonna be making an appearance. You never know who's gonna show up. Every day we're reaching out to people to see if they're involved. Every day we add more people, to be a part of this event. We're gonna, the kids are gonna have fun. We're gonna have some programming for the kids, and obviously a lot of the give back is for the kids that live in shelters. So every ticket that's bought, a comfort bag goes to the kids that live in shelters that Nicole's taking care of. So 100% of the proceeds go to that program. We don't see none of it. It goes all straight to the kids, and it's all about the kids that day.
Exactly. And I hope the kids are going to have more fun when they go to the game on August 19th. Make sure you go down to Fordham University. I should know because I covered a couple of games down at Fordham earlier this year. So it's a very good atmosphere to cover some sports, especially games like the Dribble for Dreams, because you dribble in for dreams. Literally.
Yeah, you'll be there, right?
That's a conversation when we get off the air. I'm not going to make no announcements on that one. But what I do know is you people should go there. But anyways, why don't you talk a little? I mean, obviously, you observed the way that the NBA has evolved throughout the years. While actually working, you got to see the evolution of Michael Jordan. You got to see LeBron James elevate himself to an NBA career. I mean, and it's kind of transitioned a little bit to the Michael Jordan, LeBron James debate. I mean, not just based on stats but championships, but which basketball player in human is better out of LeBron James and Michael Jordan, in your opinion?
I don't like to compare athletes because it's different eras. I think LeBron has always been one of my favorite players. I love Michael Jordan. Obviously, back then, I was a huge Knicks fan, so Michael Jordan broke my heart a bunch of times. But Michael Jordan is one of the greatest players we will ever see, as is LeBron. So my thing is I hate to compare the two because they're both great in their own ways.
Exactly. I mean, I've had two friends debate on Michael Jordan and LeBron James a lot, and only because it's a good conversation to have.
Agree. I mean, yeah. I don't like to have that conversation because they're both great. They're both champions. Obviously, Michael got 6, LeBron got 4, but LeBron's been to the title 10 times. You know, it's hard to win. It's hard to win every year. Fortunately for Mike, he did win every year, but it's just they're both great. I mean, they're Hall of Famers. They're gonna go down as obviously top 3 players of all time. Mike 1 and probably. LeBron 1A or either 1A or 2. But, they're both top 3. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Now, let's transition to a little bit to talking about the New York Knicks, since you mentioned that the New York Knicks, you really went hard for the New York Knicks since the 90s, like 90s. Well, let's talk about your overall experience watching the New York Knicks in the 90s as well as you know about basketball.
In the 90s, it was fun. We were winning. I mean, compared to the 2000s, where it was, it was depressing. You didn't want to watch the team. Huh? Yeah, it was all about in the 90s. It was all about expectations. Expectations that you had a chance to win every year, even though we never got there. But my thing is we were almost there. So we went to the championship in '99, went to the championship in '94. Every other year, '90s in 2000, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. 98, they lost in these. 98, they lost. They usually went to the second round or third round or to the finals. So my thing, it was just a great one. It was all about expectations compared to the 2000, where you just hope that they were a 500 team.
Yeah. Well, at least you don't have to worry about that earlier this year because the Knicks were a 500 team. Matter of fact, they were more than 500 teams. They were 3 wins away from notching 50 wins, and they made it to the second round. And you went into the Miami Heat. I mean, after that, during the offseason, the Knicks didn't have a draft pick. I should know because I was there. But they did that trade with the Dallas Mavericks. But they did pick up Dante DiVincenzo. So what are your overall thoughts on the Knicks in 2023?
Expectations. They've risen a little bit. To me, it's, you got to show improvement. Guys got, they're 1 year older. They're getting more into their prime. Right now, I think they're currently a top 4 seed in the East. Do they have enough to compete with Milwaukee? Do they have enough to compete with Boston? We got to see. My thing is how the season goes. It's 82 games. You see injuries. You see a lot of different things can happen. Some teams, players miss games. Players take off. You don't know who's going to come out hot. So my thing is but the expectations are there. So my thing is you want to see what's going to happen.
Exactly. The Knicks have had a pretty interesting year, not just on the court, but actually to get people engaged. You see parades happening every time the Knicks win a playoff game.
I can't stand that. I hate it. But anyway.
Since you mentioned that, why couldn't you stand watching Knicks fans celebrate the way they celebrate a Knicks playoff win, the way they would celebrate if it was the NBA championship? Because
we didn't win anything.
The Knicks have not had that many chances to win a championship. So could you blame them for thinking like that?
No, I don't. You don't celebrate because you won one playoff game. That you don't do that.
Yeah, you don't. There's a difference between celebrating a playoff win that you managed to get for the first time in 8 years to celebrate a playoff series you won in 10 years to celebrate just winning 2 games against Miami. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Scoop Bucks get involved with the New York Knicks a lot throughout the playoff run. So yeah.
I agree totally.
Now, as far as the as far as continuing talking about it, like Julius Randle came into when Julius Randle came into the league, he had an injury that kept him out for a full season. He came back. He wasn't really what you expected up until he reached the prime of his career when he came to the New York Knicks. Stephen A. Smith talked about the Knicks should trade Julius Randle. Do you think that the New York Knicks should trade Julius Randle if he Julius Randle this summer?
No, the only way you trade Julius Randle is you're talking about getting a major star. Julius Randle is a 25-10 guy. It's hard to get 25. Where do you find 25-10 players in the NBA? There's not many. So my thing is like I like Julius Randle. You know, a lot of fans, Knick fans put a lot of pressure on him, but that's what Knick fans do. I think he's a very good player. Obviously he's had 2 playoff runs with the Knicks and they haven't gone well. Obviously he had some injuries going into the playoffs this year, so that kind of held him back. I think, I would love to see what a healthy Julius Randle does in the playoffs. Then we kind of determine like, all right, then we could judge him, but the first year, like all eyes were on Julius. That was the first year, he was the best player on the team. You threw 2 or 3 guys at him all the time, so he had to adjust to that. That was his first time really in the playoffs. And then his second time in the playoffs, he had an ankle injury. So my thing is like, let's cut him some slack. Let's see how he goes in if he's ever healthy going into the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. But the difference between, and let's not forget the difference between Julius Randle that's used to play regular season games to a Julius Randle that plays in the playoffs, and you're only gonna get you'll get a good game from here and there, but his shooting is not really up to par. But what do you think? What do you think Julius Randle has to do in order to become a better playoff player, as opposed to be a good regular season player?
Healthy. I think he just has to be healthy. I think if he's healthy and Jalen, if the team is healthy, and I think he'll be fine. I think you just gotta let Jalen be Jalen. It's all about health, man. I mean, you look at Milwaukee. Look, after game 1, Giannis got hurt. Miami won. If Giannis would have played that whole series, probably Milwaukee would have won that series. So I mean, it's all about the playoffs always comes down to health. I always think it's either health and obviously if you catch a hot streak like Miami was able to catch a hot streak, but at the same time, I don't want to make excuses, but they beat Milwaukee with Giannis pretty much hurt. They beat the Knicks with Julius Randle hurt. So they just got, and obviously they beat the Celtics. And that was a good series. And then, then they played Denver and lost. So, it's all about health.
Yes, it's all about health indeed. I mean, Julius Randle didn't miss that game 1 due to injury. You could argue that they probably would have beaten Miami if they managed to get Donovan Mitchell, if not right this summer, then at some point down the road when his contract with the Cavaliers is up, you could argue that Donovan Mitchell would make the New York Knicks a playoff team. But which is actually a question I'm asking you. Do you think that the New York Knicks can somehow pick up Donovan Mitchell?
I don't think we need Donovan Mitchell.
Why you say that? I mean, he's a superstar.
He's a star. I wouldn't call. He's a star. Is he a superstar? I don't know. We got to see. I mean, my thing is like he's a great. Yes, he's an all-star, great player, all that other stuff. But I'd rather go after Embiid. I would love to see Embiid in the Knick uniform. I would love to see at first I would say last year I would have said Dame Lillard, but now that we have Jalen Brunson, Dame Lillard, Jalen Brunson backcourt doesn't sound great for me because they're both short and that hurt them defensively. But maybe a Zach LaVine might help. But I don't, Donovan, I don't know.
Yeah. But one thing is for sure, we can expect more playoff runs for the New York Knicks if they keep this goal together, especially since you managed to put together the 2016 Villanova Wildcats championship team reunion when you picked up Donovan DiVincenzo, teaming up with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. What would these 3 Villanova Wildcats bring to this New York Knicks team going into 2023-24?
Heart and grit. One thing about Villanova players, if we've seen what Steve Lavin has done, he's a lot of great players come out of Villanova, and they're all tough. Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, DiVincenzo. So just tough guys.
Exactly. And not to mention DiVincenzo won a championship ring. So yeah, there's that. And Jalen Brunson, he's going to continue to ascend as a point guard, as a New York Knicks really enjoy having on the team. He knows that he's a floor general. He knows how to ball out.
Agreed.
Yeah. Now let's do a little bit. Of a rapid fire. I mean, I want you to name 3 NBA players that you would start, bench, and cut.
3 NBA players that would start, bench, and cut. Giannis, start. Bench. Dennis Schroeder. Bench. Cut. Ooh. Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. Trevor Neal. I'll say Trevor Neal.
Okay, but I'm gonna re-ask that question with this time with the current Knicks roster. Which Knicks players would you start, bench, and cuts?
Ooh. That I would start Jalen Brunson. I would bench. Ooh. Who would I bench? Current on the Knicks that I would bench. I would say Jericho. He's the only one I'm thinking about right now. And the third one, cut. Ooh. Well, they just cut Trevor Neal, so I'll say Trevor Neal.
Okay, that's fair. That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring back the start, bench, and cut questions again. This time with the New York Liberty. Which players would you start, bench, and cut?
Breanna Stewart. Breanna Stewart start. Bench. Ooh. That's a tough question. I would say cut. Even though I liked her a lot, she's not on the team anymore. But I say Dee Richards. She's not on the team no more. Bench. Jonquel Jones was struggling for a little while. It might have been, you almost had to bench her for a second and play Thornton more. But now she's starting to, come into form. I don't know if she was injured or not. That's a tough question. I can't answer that.
I blame you because it's a super team. They super teams. I don't blame. This is the best Liberty roster that we've had since 2015, when they were in the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Fever.
Yeah, agreed.
So, yeah. Now, getting back to Hard2Guard, like when you and the people that you have working for you covering sports through Hard2Guard, like what are some angles that you approach?
When we film, it's all about what do we think is all good. When we did film, I would say, it's like what's authentic, where the crowd is gonna like it. We didn't shoot to shoot. Like my thing is like if we did shoot, if we did put it out there, it's like, all right, it's a crowd, is the audience gonna like this? And that's what we aim for, to make sure that that people watch this and want they want to ask questions and why did you shoot that and all that other stuff.
And that's what it's all about. You got to determine what stories is beneficial and will get engagement for your content. When you, and which leads us one question. How do you determine which basketball event or game or story to tell when you're covering it through Hard2Guard?
Back then, when we were showing the basketball tournaments, one thing that I appreciated was a lot of these guys gave back to the community. A lot of people don't really understand how much they give back to the community, how many losses that they take as far as financially, and they still do it for the community. and a lot of people think that they're making all this money, but they're not. And sometimes I've always felt back then, and I was able to help some of them at the time, was they all have a story to tell. And I always wanted to share that just so people could respect them a little bit more. And that was always been my thing.
Yes. Yeah, and that's amazing. Like what are some of the most notable stories that you told throughout this, that you or anybody that you work with told when with Hard2Guard first started?
I mean, I love the, Hoops in the Sun. I love how Hoops in the Sun has, come to prominence. I love, that Kenny Stevens at Dykeman has, I used to go to Dykeman when they just had Friday nights, and they had, then all of a sudden Friday nights became Wednesday, and now it's every night, so I saw that rise, and I want to feel like I was part of it because I was the first person to go there to film. And we used to film there Friday nights, and we were able to tell Kenny's story on Summer Ball. And I felt like, watching it grow, I've always felt like I had a small part in that. Obviously, they're doing all the work now, so but I'm just saying back then when it first started. Lee from Watson, the same thing, like, seeing him grow, so watching some of these tournaments, like, grow, I've always felt like I had some small part of it.
Exactly. It doesn't really matter. It does, exactly, because you created the business. It's pretty much the same thing like I created Nothing But That Sports Talk back when I started as Nothing But That People Talk before I transitioned went from just a straight podcast interviews to now covering sports. I mainly covered basketball, but I'm also looking to cover other sports like down the road in the future. So, yes, but right now I just cover basketball for now. I mean, I just spent the last couple of weeks covering, when as you saw, and covered Nike Pro City because I got a better understanding of what Nike Pro City brought to basketball culture. It's a pro-am league that's doing college jail. I mean, you got players not for the NBA overseas and currently playing in college, playing in this league. I just saw 4 different game-winning shots that happened in Nike Pro City this month. That's more than you probably would have seen in recent Nike Pro Cities. I mean, as long as you've been involved with Nike, as long as you've been like watching basketball, like, what are your overall impressions about what Nike Pro City brings to the basketball community throughout the years?
The pros, I like that. They get a lot of top college guys to play there. Obviously, it's indoors. I love. I think LIU is a great gym. I thought, there's nothing like Hunter College. I thought when they were playing, when Nike Pro City was at Hunter College, that atmosphere was just different. Baruch was cool. I like Baruch. But I always circle back to, like, when you talk to like real basketball heads, there was nothing like Hunter College. It's just the competition, more NBA guys. But Bernard is steadily bringing it back to prominence, and I think he's doing a hell of a job. I talked to Bernard the other day, and I think he's doing like a great job. And I think LIU has a lot of potential.
Exactly, and I should know, and I should trust me. I know I've covered sports at that gym too. I've been covering sports there since I went there as a student in the 2010s. It has the potential to attract many people, but it just has to grow a bit more.
Yeah, it's gonna grow.
Yeah, exactly. And I already did. Just look out for the rest of the playoffs and the championship game on August 14th. It should be something special. You never know who's going to pull up at Nike Pro City. Yeah, so entertaining basketball games, which makes March Madness look like a joke. But then it can't be March Madness. So I don't even know why Bob's saying that. But besides the point, I mean, what are some of your favorite moments that you saw from Nike Pro City back in the days when it was at Hunter, Hostos, Baruch?
I mean, Kyrie Irving playing it against Nate Robinson. Kevin Durant, I filmed that when Kevin Durant played at Nike Pro City at Baruch. Some great matchups at Stephon Marbury at Hunter College. Ron Artest at Hunter College. I remember when Michael Beasley, when he was a top 3 pick, him playing at Hunter College. I filmed that. It's been a lot of moments. Tobias Harris at Baruch College, when he had a huge game, I filmed that. It's been a lot of moments.
Yeah, there've been a lot of moments. I mean, a year ago when it was at Hostos Community College, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, Obi Toppin played
Yeah,
together. Even
that
though
was
they
cool.
lost,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
even though they lost, but we're not going to run people at that. But the fact of the matter is, they got involved in one of the most prime tournaments in New York City.
yep, yes.
And I gotta give, is it Bernard or Barry? And
Bernard Bowen.
Bernard Bowen, the guy with the brown skin guy with the.
Yep, yep.
Gotta give the guy his flowers for all the work he put in for Nike, bringing Nike Pro State to LIU Brooklyn. Coming from an LIU alum myself, gotta give him and Bree some respect. Something that I didn't get to give to him with, like when I first started interacting with the guy, and yeah, it's just a lot to take in when you discuss it, having these conversations about Pro City. But yeah. All right. Well, that wrap up this episode. Nothing but this will start. Thank you so much, Edgar.
I appreciate it.
Coming on the show. And I hope we can do this again. I mean, and I can't wait to, and I would love to invite you back on the show, like literally a couple of days or a week after the dribble for Jeans comes and goes. Even if
hold on, I got one last thing. If for the people that do watch, I want them to freaking order. I have my my documentary after 20 years finally on Amazon. Finally got accepted this week. So whoever's watching it, go on Amazon and purchase the Blackout.
The Blackout documentary?
Yep, with Fat Joe and Jay-Z.
Why don't you get, matter of fact, since you mentioned that, why don't you give us a little bit about what the Blackout is all about and what people.
The Blackout is in 2003. I documented the Rucker Park season where Fat Joe's Terror Squad had a team where they were the defending champions. And that was the first year where Jay-Z put in a team, the S. Carter team. And the reason he put in the team is because he was promoting his sneaker brand, the S. Carters. And that year was unbelievable. Probably one of the best summer basketball, street ball things I've ever seen in my life. They were both competing against each other to try to make it to the championship. And the day they finally made it to the championship, the blackout in New York City happened.
Wow. 2000, yeah, we're talking about back when there was no electricity, none whatsoever, when you had like 24.
Yeah, city was shut down, and that season there was more NBA guys at Rucker Park that you'll probably ever see in the history of summer basketball.
Wow. I remember that blackout. I didn't even think nothing of it. It was just so dark time, literally. Well, thank you for guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate it. Good looking.